Are you ready to move from an ordinary life to an extraordinary one where you meet your business goals, create a life that has success in health, wealth, and for self? Then come and join us for our retreat in Byron Bay, Australia at the end of July, start of August 2025, and come and rediscover who you really are. More details can be found at willowhealing.org.
Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and I have the wonderful Dr. Fred Moss to introduce to you today. He is a psychiatrist, a holistic transformative coach, and a mental health advocate passionate about helping people rediscover their true voice and live authentically. With over 4 decades in mental health, Dr. Fred has transitioned from traditional psychiatry to a holistic, human-centered approach that empowers individuals to heal from within. Through his Moss methodology, he guides people in breaking free from labels and limitations, finding clarity in their purpose, and embracing their most authentic self. As a speaker, podcaster, and financial literacy coach, Dr. Fred also emphasizes the connection between mental wellness and financial empowerment, helping individuals take control of both their inner and outer worlds. So, welcome to the show, Dr. Fred.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Catherine. It's really just an honor and a privilege to join you this morning, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. So there's so much that resonates with me with what you do, especially I say to people, let's heal from within. And I guess, how did you get to this point in your journey to, realize that there's more than what the psychiatry world was offering?
Well, that's an interesting question and a good one. It's been a process. It's not like one day I arrived there. It was like, I think I knew that long before I went into the field, that psychiatry was headed in an odd direction was one of the reasons that I went into it. So if you go back a long ways, and I can give you a little bit of a story, but even go back to the day I was born to a family that was in a fair amount of chaos and disarray. I had 2 older brothers. They were 10 and 14 years older than me, and my parents. And I really vividly remember being in my playpen and watching the 4 of them speak with each other, and really think that someday maybe I would learn how to speak and be a good communicator like my brothers and my parents. And I could see that the magic was really in communication. I was very enchanted with that. And, I was called on to bring peace and joy to a family in chaos and disarray. As you can imagine, 2 adolescent boys and their parents back in the day were fighting quite a bit. And I was the bundle of joy. I was brought in to be the focus of happiness, or the fun little kid, or the roly-poly, cute kid. And I did that very well for a couple years. I'm not sure I've done that for all of my life, but I did it pretty well as a child. My brothers tell me that. As life went on, I really wanted to learn how to communicate. And I was like, well, maybe in school, that's what school has to be for. So I went to school, and, that really isn't where it happened, of course. I was very precocious when I entered school because I had these brothers. They taught me all sorts of stuff that no other kindergartner knew. And so I came in knowing a little bit about sex and drugs and rock and roll and war and peace and all those things. I knew how to add, I knew how to subtract, I knew how to read. And none of my friends really had that going on. So I was kind of ahead of the curve a little bit, but I still wanted to learn how to communicate. And so as it turns out, I like talking. And I talked a lot in elementary school. I talked a real lot. So none of my elementary school teachers ever forgot having Fred as a student. Pretty sure about that. And then, as we went on, I learned, I'm not supposed to actually speak in class. That's not a space for an open discourse. Like, in fact, sit down, be quiet, and do exactly what I do is the only assignment here. Like, if you got something to say, don't say it, and it was really being squelched. And I was like, well, that's disappointing. Maybe somewhere they learned how to talk. So maybe it was junior high. So I, went to junior high after a while, and it was worse in junior high. And then I started seeing a trend. I went to high school, and it was like even worse, like really seriously, don't talk and don't share. I was like, okay, one last chance, I decided I'd go to college, and like maybe that would be a place where I could learn how to communicate. So it was a cool college, only 40 miles away. And, we had most of the kids in my circle aspired to go there. And that was the University of Michigan. So I made myself, prepped myself and did everything I could to get into that university. And I got into the university and lasted for like a year and a half, and then decided, no, this isn't it either. And so I got on a bus and I took a bus across the United States from Detroit all the way to Berkeley, California, like 2,500 miles. And the idea was that I was going to find myself. And I did a pretty good job that summer of actually discovering lots of things of what it means to be a human, what it means to be a communicator. I met a lot of people in Berkeley and a lot of people in California and on the bus ride. And it was really a place where I could learn how to communicate. Then I just, my brothers and my parents were a little bit concerned about me, of course, as I was just kind of freewheeling. They told me that there was this new industry out there that I would probably be good at, that I had the aptitude for. And they thought I should pursue it. And it was like, you might have heard of the industry. It's actually called computers. It's like, okay, maybe I could do computers. And the only computer in Michigan was at the University of Michigan. So I got back on a bus and went all the way back to Detroit and got myself re-enrolled in the University of Michigan and started the computer program. And, I was like, okay, let's go. And I learned Fortran and COBOL. And all of a sudden I was up all night in this computer because it was like a huge 2-acre facility. And I punch cards and batch jobs. And, it's like, no, actually, this isn't going to be my life either. So I decided one more time, I got to go, and I'm never coming back to university ever again. Never. And I told my parents that. And my mom's like, well, that's okay, but you got to get a job. I'm like, oh, Mom? Yeah, anyways, moms will be like that. So I got myself, I said, let's get a job then. She got me some applications. And one of the applications she got me was for being a child care worker in an adolescent state hospital for adolescent boys. And, she got me a couple different applications, but that one was coming sooner than the other two. I didn't have an aspiration. It was just like sooner so I could get a quicker paycheck. And it also had another feature, which was 3 weeks of orientation. So I was like, okay, I could get paid full time to sit in a conference room and doodle and try to listen to this like orientation stuff. And with 3 paychecks, I could buy myself a car and then drive around the country and refigure out what my life was about. That's really what my intention was. I stayed 3 weeks. That's it. I'm not going up on the floors.
Yeah.
But on the 4th week, my friend Paul, who was also orienting with me, somehow guilted me into going to the floors. And so we both went to MetaView 5 on that 4th week Monday. I truly remember that. Like I was so scared and concerned that these kids were tough and rough and I couldn't do it. But the truth is that what happened there is not only did I survive that first Monday, but I realized, oh, this is the place where I can learn how to communicate and actually make a difference with other people and get paid for it. Yeah. It's like, wow, this is sort of what I've been looking for. Yeah. So I stayed on for another 3 weeks. And it was like, well, now I get I can get a later model car, right? Like now I have 3 more paychecks. And in this later model car, maybe what can happen, after 3 weeks, I was like, well, maybe I could stay another 3 weeks. And so I started staying for 3 week intervals. And just to be honest with you, as a spoiler alert, for 45 years, I've been ready to quit in 3 weeks. Like, I'm still ready to quit in 3 weeks. My vision is 3 weeks from now, let me just get 3 more paychecks and then I'm out of here. And I've been on that hamster wheel for 45 years because I stayed in the field. I stayed in for a few more years. And the reason I ever went back to school was because I hated psychiatry. I really hated the direction it was going. In 1987, I decided to go back to medical school so that I could become a psychiatrist because I hated psychiatry and I saw the direction it was going. The psychiatrist would be called when Timmy and Tony got into a fight or Jimmy was up too late. And he would come down from his room and talk to Tony for like 4 seconds, and then talk to us for like another 7 seconds, and go in the nursing station and write something in a chart. And then we'd have to go retrieve Tony and then hold him down in the quiet room and pull down his sweatpants and drop some sort of injectable cocktail of sedatives and antipsychotics and, mood stabilizing, supposedly sedatives. If he stayed in a stupor for like a day, we would call that a success story. And that's just barbaric, heinous, and unacceptable. And by the way, still going on all over the world every day, many, many, many times today, that has already happened all over the world. Like that's not old school. That's present school drawn forward. That's still happening. But I despise that so much. And it was like, Tony's a kid. He's like just a boy. He's just a man. I mean, can you just how about if we talk with him? So I went back into psychiatry. The idea was I went back into medical school so that I could be a psychiatrist, so that I could bring communication into the field and actually fight the status quo. But while I was there, an interesting thing happened. A full paradigm shift happened in my third year of medical school, which was that Prozac was introduced to the world. And everybody now knows what Prozac was. But when Prozac was introduced, it totally altered the whole paradigm of what mental health was about that day, like that year. It was on the cover of Newsweek, the cover of Time, a picture of Prozac only on the cover of Newsweek. Because the idea was that this was going to be the future panacea and that we could cure all mental health discomfort with this pill. Well, that was absurd at the time. I realized it was absurd and unacceptable, but I, bought in a little bit. After all, I'm a psychiatrist. I'm being bred to actually deliver this medicine and all future medicine. And I don't want to do that. It's not really what I'm up to. I'm very clearly not interested in that very much. But I'm already got sunk costs. I'm already in medical school. I'm already on my way to I might as well get what's on the front edge of my industry. And the front edge of my industry was all these pills. As a therapeutic intervention. And the new paradigm was, if you're uncomfortable for any reason, that's your fault. That's on you. You got a problem, it's on you. It's not on the environment. Like, we don't blame a log for burning in a fire. But this is like a fire. Life is hard, and it's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be nervous, awkward, distracted. It's okay to have trouble in social environments. It's okay to have poor memories. It's okay to have regrets and resentments. Like, it's okay. Like, that's called human. So I began to sort of fight that battle a little bit and try to live two lives. On the one hand, the jobs I were taking were calling on me to diagnose and medicate people. On the other hand, there was this realization that neither of those things were doing my patients very well. So I fought that battle for a number of years. And, at times, like, really, my soul sacrificed, my heart broke. I hated writing prescriptions, but I did it over 100,000 times. And I had over 30,000, closer to 40,000 patients during my run as a psychiatrist. And, I've quit a few times. And anyways, in 2006, I did something which was seemingly pretty radical. It's not really that radical ultimately, but people think it is. And that is, I took people off of medicine. It's like, what? You did what? I'm like, what's so radical about taking people off toxins? The radical part of this is that nobody thinks it's radical to put people on toxins.
Yeah.
That's the radical truth of the matter.
Yeah.
So I did that, and the results were really astonishing. People got better, predictably and reliably better off their medicines than they were on their medicine. And in many cases, the diagnosis that they thought they had that had them need the medicine in the first place disappeared altogether. So I now had a group of people off of medicine who were doing better than they could remember any time in their recent adult lives. So I wanted to just tell people this. I was like, oh my God, I'm tell my colleagues, tell my friends, tell the mothers of my kids, the kids I was treating, like, what am I supposed to do with this information? And I can't just go to the mountaintop and scream, because people can't really hear that. Like, if you're violent, people aren't ready to listen to you. So there was a part of me that was violent, like, yo, we are doing the wrong thing here. So as I moved forward, I really began to incorporate this into my practice, like this idea that medicines were actually inducing or increasing or perpetuating or actually causing the symptoms they're marketed to treat became something that I know to be true. So over the next several years, I transitioned myself into being, instead of sort of like a typecast psychiatrist, I transitioned myself into beginning to look at how can I help people by getting them on less or no medicine. And that became my practice over the next 10 years as I, again, now this time began to travel around the country. It's interesting, I never put this together, but I began to travel as a doctor around the country, just like I thought I would when I was working, when I was in between school and my first job. It's like, oh yeah, I got that done. I actually got to place myself in multiple different places in the United States and then multiple different places in the world. Because of the magic of telepsychiatry, I got to work from remote areas like Bhutan and Nepal and Thailand and Israel and France and England and Italy. Like I did psychiatry from those countries using telepsych long before it was the gold standard. 2013, I was teaching people how to do mastering telehealth. So between telehealth and becoming sort of taking people off medicine or, I began to realize that the only access we have to sort of interrupt this cycle isn't what we think. Most people think I'm really should be mad at the pharma industry. I'm not. Or mad at the insurance industry. I'm not. Mad at doctors. I'm not. They're doing their jobs. They're doing exactly what they're doing. They think they're doing well, and that's great. And, they're doing what they're doing. They're great people. No problem. But what's really here to close down this cycle, because it's the overall, we'll say the meta cycle of the whole thing is doing damage. So how can we interrupt that damage? And what I finally decided looking for the entry point is that why do people go to psychiatry in the first place? The reason they go to psychiatry in the first place is because they're convinced that there's something wrong with them. And they come to a psychiatrist. It's really funny. As a psychiatrist, we have a couple things that are different than other specialties. For instance, if other specialties tell you you're okay, you're like happy about it. If a psychiatrist tells you you're okay, you're pissed.
So true.
So true.
So
like,
true.
No, dude, I didn't come to you to hear that I'm okay.
No.
I want to go to a real doctor who knows that there's something wrong with me. So if we start looking at that, we can start making it an overarching assumption that the way to manage this is to get that there may be nothing wrong with you in the first place. Like it's okay to have all the freaking pain you have.
Yeah.
It's really okay. That's called humanity.
Yeah.
It's not simple being human.
No.
It's really not simple. Maybe it's even gotten harder recently. It's unclear, but it's never been simple. There's nobody writing books. You can't read a book of a time when life was simple. Sorry, that didn't happen. It wasn't here. Humans have always had a really difficult time being human. So once we start getting that and giving access to the idea that it's really okay to be highly uncomfortable in this crazy world, really okay, nothing wrong with you. It's really okay. Then we have a whole new paradigm that gets developed, which is, can I share, what is the access then to healing? Going back to Little Freddie and the playpen, the access to the healing is through human connection.
Yep.
This is the most potent source of healing that we know of in mankind. Like this is it. This is way more potent than any medication or any treatment or any therapies or any diagnoses or anything. When we connect with another person, which we're always after, this is a universal truth about the 8 billion people living on the planet right now, that we're all interested one way or another in human connection. And the reason for that is that's where healing takes place. That's where love takes place. That's where connection takes place. And when that process happens, I'm sure you've experienced this, we call it love. Like we meet somebody and they actually connect with us. Like, I'm in love with you. Like, that's that simple. They connect you at all sorts of new levels. And you're like, dude, we're in love. This is how this goes. It's like, yeah, that's right. And when I do that with people who are in, let's say an institution, a jail, a prison, an inpatient unit, I've worked in every single modality known to Western medicine as a leader. not because I wanted to work in every modality, but because I quit jobs when they didn't serve me. Like after a while, I was like, no, you're asking me to do something that's misaligned with who my core self is, and therefore I need to move on. And then I would go find another job in another modality, hoping and praying that this one could work for who I really am. And then it wouldn't, eventually it wouldn't work out, and I move on to the next one. My resume is phenomenal. My resume is ridiculous. I'm not kidding.
But how?
I have been to so many different jobs. And, and I loved all my jobs. I like helping people. I like being a healer, but I didn't like the soul sacrifice of what was really being asked of me. So we move now to the recent years. I developed a brand called Welcome to Humanity, which is really a cool brand, of course. And every year, every day, I'm like, oh, yeah, I like that name. This is good. This fits me. Welcome to Humanity is a good answer for nearly anything that you're going through in life. If somebody says something really terrible, you can say, welcome to humanity. If someone says something really great, you could say, welcome to humanity. If someone says something really boring, you could say, welcome to humanity. If you can, welcome to humanity is what we got going on here. And once I started doing that, there were some offshoots. I created Global Madness as a possibility. I wrote a great article about that. I then created my 2 books, which are, The Creative 8, Healing Through Creativity and Self-Expression, and the Find Your True Voice book. Because ultimately what I realized in this effort to create a human connection, that the first step to connecting with another human is really getting who you are. Mm-hmm. Like you really do have to get closer to who you are than what you naturally have become. See, going back to conventional education, we learned how to become someone that we're not in order to protect the person that we are. Like that's how we've gone, which is absurd in nature, of course. As you listen to it now, it's like, we did what? Yeah, that's what we did. We have learned how to become someone we're not in order to so-called protect the person that we are. Therefore, we started being different than who we really are. We started saying things that we didn't really mean. We started not speaking when we should. We started miscommunicating and misrepresenting who our core selves are. And it's even got so absurd that we now say things that even we don't believe.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I know.
What is that? Like, we all get it, but what is that? You're saying things that you even know you don't believe, mm-hmm. just so you can fit in or not be thrown off the island, not be distracted, not cause damage, whatever. Like, it's an absurd process. Go ahead. I see you.
But I was just going to say, how amazing is it? But then when you challenge that person or provide the alternate point of view, that they all of a sudden feel safe to talk about what they really believe, because you've almost heard underneath them going, I don't think you really believe that. And then once they have that freedom and feel that they can be vulnerable and authentic, then you get to see the true version of them and you get to see the humanness start to come out rather than repeating whatever company line they need to.
That's really a great point. And, that's speaking to the authenticity out of it all. The idea here is that when I begin to resonate with my true frequency, when I wipe the dirt off of my tuning fork, all the cobwebs and rust off my tuning fork, so that I'm buzzing at whatever that is in a human frequency, I have the capacity to actually communicate effectively with a woman in Australia, for instance, without ever meeting you before.
Yep, correct.
Like, that's called human frequency. That's called human connection. That's what we're after. And healing and bright, your eyes are shining. It's like there's a brightness, there's a vitality that gets born at that moment. Yeah. That no side effects, no co-pays, no insurances, no doctor's orders, nothing to really be worried about. The possibility of exploring what it really means to connect with another person is where healing emanates from. So in this process of really connecting with other people and then creating, keynote speaking and then, actually becoming a podcaster myself. So I have 250 episodes that I've dropped with me as a host. And I think I've been on about 300 podcasts as a guest. I have an opportunity to share this message through podcasting, which of course is only generally 2 people connecting.
Correct.
And why would anyone listen to us? Because they want to connect with somebody, so they're going to connect with us.
Yeah.
So, it's really, and then I picked up the moniker a few years ago that, pretty catchy moniker, this idea of being the undoctor. And the undoctor is What's the undoctor? Well, the undoctor is a natural offshoot of what we've already talked about. But I began to realize that, if we're going to get people to realize there's maybe nothing wrong with them, then we would be able to undiagnose them. Whatever diagnosis they thought they might have, maybe they don't have. Maybe they're just being human. Maybe your diagnosis, which I now see that you do have, by the way, is Catherine. That's it. That's your diagnosis. You're Catherine. I get it. Like, congratulations. You got the Catherine bug.
Why, thank you. And it might change from day to day depending on what identity shift I'm in.
That's completely true. But that's part of the human call. That's part of the human ride, is to have your identity shift day to day. Instead of thinking that you're supposed to be Catherine who you were last week, you're Catherine now.
Correct.
That's who you are. You're Catherine now. And it's okay to be entirely different than the Catherine who was here 5 minutes ago or yesterday or last year. Really completely okay. That's a human trait as well. So when we start, when we start moving out these arbitrary parameters that we have created that make almost everybody abnormal, we start realizing we never knew what normal was in the first place. It's such an interesting field that normal has never been defined on a universal basis. How do we have the audacity to call anybody abnormal if we don't know what normal is? Super interesting, right? And that's really what the process has now formed itself to be. And in the last several years, I have really done a lot of transformational coaching, where I've been a restorative coach. That's one way to look at it. And between coaching and podcasting and writing and speaking, I'm also been a psychiatrist. And so these days I'm back to working with a corporate agency, and, they let me play with my elbows out, but not my wings spread. It's like, it's close, almost like better than any up until now. And, what they let me do, I still have to diagnose people, and then maybe 30 to 50% of them actually get medicine from me, but others come to me because they know that they don't want medicine and they don't want to be diagnosed. And either way, we have to diagnose people. What most people don't realize is, if you go to a psychiatrist and they choose not to diagnose you, they're not going to get paid. Mm-hmm. They only get paid if they diagnose you. So, you go to a barbershop enough times, you get a haircut. You go to a psychiatrist enough times, you get a bunch of diagnoses. And you think they're real. Yeah. And why would you pursue diagnoses? One of the reasons you would pursue a diagnosis is so that you could relinquish responsibility for the things in your life that aren't going as well as you wish they were. You could say, honey, that wasn't me. That was my ADHD. That wasn't me. That was my bipolar disorder. That's not me. I got chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. That wasn't me. I'm on the spectrum. That wasn't me. My dad's a narcissist. That wasn't me. I'm an addict. That wasn't me. I got social phobia. Dude, it's you.
Yeah, and then that just becomes an excuse and a label to hide behind, right? Rather than owning authentically who you are and feeling into that so that you can heal it, and then it no longer pops up as a trigger or as big of a trigger for you anymore.
Exactly. And now there's a place here for a very important disclaimer for anyone who's listening. Very, very important. And that is, there is a group of people, a very significant group of people, who are pretty sure that they have the right diagnosis, the right treatment, and the right medication, and they wouldn't trade it for anything. To that group, what I have to say is, please keep doing what you're doing. If you have reached the point in any aspect of your life where you wouldn't trade where you are for anything that could be better, congratulations. Please keep staying there. That's such an accomplishment that you deserve to stay exactly where you are. And I really mean it. This isn't side talk. It's really real. If that's what you're sure of, more power to you. I wish I would have reached that somewhere in my life, that I wouldn't trade what I have for anything better. It's like, man, that's a good place to be. But this conversation is not for them. I'm not asking them to come off their medicine or lose their diagnosis. Not at all. This is for the hundreds of millions of people who already know that they're being undertreated, mistreated, or overtreated, and they're being underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed, or overdiagnosed, and they know that. They actually know it. They refuse to think that the mental health industry is helping them, because it isn't. And because it isn't, they get to argue back. They get to say stuff like, I don't want to take my medicine. I don't have bipolar. And their friends and family are like, oh, you're being non-compliant. Oh, you're being combative. And so they're forced to, fight the battle for their own sovereignty and their own agency, their own humanity, which is being squelched by the chemical imbalance that these drugs actually cause. We think that these drugs are treating a chemical imbalance. In fact, these drugs are causing a chemical imbalance. We didn't have a chemical imbalance when we were unhappy and went to the doctor. We were just unhappy. One of the many choices in life is to be unhappy. You can choose that. Mm-hmm. You really can. And is there enough reasons in the world to be unhappy? Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Could we come up with 100 in 5 minutes? For sure. How about to be anxious? For sure. How about to be terrified? For sure. How about to be awkward, distracted? For sure. Hundreds of reasons for all of those things. You don't have to be sick to find them. In fact, you have to be sick to pretend they're not there. And when we get that there's so many reasons to be unhappy, we get to then honor each other's humanity. And in that honor, we get to consider a human connection. And with that human connection, we get to instantly create a source of healing that far exceeds any potency of healing ever developed by mankind. Way more interesting, way more fun, way more effective, way freer, and way less side effects than anything we have ever created before inside of the pursuit of a human connection as a way of helping people heal their mental health discomforts. It's really okay to be uncomfortable. I really want people to get that. And it's okay to be profoundly uncomfortable even. That still doesn't give you a disorder.
No.
It's really okay to be profoundly uncomfortable. Yeah. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's okay to think there's something wrong with you, by the way. But that doesn't give you a disorder either. That's like a natural state of humanity, is to think that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So maybe thinking that there's something wrong with you is only a criteria for being normal. Like, we all have it. So congratulations. You think there's something wrong with you? I think there's something wrong with me too. She thinks there's something wrong with her too. We're all in the same boat. That's really cool. That's called normal human being.
And I guess that's where it comes through when you have that full acceptance of yourself. And that's, the uncomfortable, and these are some things that are wrong with me, but you get to love them anyway. And you get to really own yourself and be true to that you can move forward. And like you said, keep doing better each day.
Yeah. If you can do a little bit better each day, and, and whatever that really means, take 1% steps each day. It only take 100 days to be 100% better if you improve 1% every day. And maybe there's compounding even. So maybe it takes less than 100 days. And, what's really fun about this is little Freddie in his playpen knew this. So did little Catherine in her playpen. So did little everyone know it. This is not news. This is not the stuff that I didn't make this up. This has been something that's universally true, and ask any 3-year-old. They already know. We took that from them through the conventional system. We washed away their confidence and their adventure nature. Yes. We washed away their exploration. We washed away their individuality and their curiosity. We washed away their creativity. And now they are missing some things, but we can bring those things back and create whole, complete, and perfect for anybody. You are fine the way you are. Consider that as a possibility. Even if you're sure you're out of bounds. I get it. You're sure you're out of bounds. You're still okay. That we all share this possibility of being out of bounds. You got some things you're weaker than other people at? I get it. You got some things you're stronger than other people at? I get it. That's called humanity. Good for you. Like, welcome to the tribe.
Well, if we were all the same, how boring would life be? We're all here with some unique 100%. Journey, unique story, and that is what we can do with the connection. And that's why I felt called to start even this podcast, because then I get to connect with people like yourself, Dr. Fred, and other people around the world, because everyone has a unique perspective, and everyone, it might be you listen to this and there's one thing that resonates with you. Great, I've done my job and I've achieved my intention, which is you found something new for yourself to empower you to really come back to who you are and be your authentic self.
Exactly. 100%. I'm 100% aligned with that. And look, you don't really arrive at this authentic self, by the way. It's always a journey. It's always stepping through to undo all the rust and all the cobwebs and all the dirt and all the pain that has happened to shift us from being authentic like we were perhaps when we were 1 year old. It's a lifelong battle. And to undo those things, first you have to identify them. And how do we do that? Well, just as a side, you look at Henry David Thoreau, he said that the mass of men go through life in quiet desperation and go to their graves with their song still in them. And when we start looking at that, we get that might be the greatest tragedy of all of humankind. Yeah. The idea that you could go through life without anyone ever knowing who you were. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how do we get there? Well, we start by washing away those things that we have become to protect the person that we are. So we start by having authentic conversations with people. We start by looking at different ways to self-express in the form, perhaps, of art, music, dancing, singing, drama, cooking, writing, gardening, those kind of things. Give us back our character. Give us back our honest to goodness character. And by the way, when we're performing those activities, I have noticed that all the so-called symptoms that you thought you had disappear during that process. It's a really important finding, because we get that, let's say, okay, I'm feeling lousy, so I pick up a paintbrush and an easel, and or a piece of paper and some tracing or whatever, and I start doing some kind of art or performing art or visual art. I no longer am feeling the pain I had beforehand. That means that when I'm done with this, whatever my project is, I get to choose to go back to being miserable or not.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm released. At the end of the art process, I don't have misery. I then can fling myself back to the pain I was experiencing and declare it was there the whole time, just waiting for me in the hallway, or I don't have to go back there. I can actually proceed without this level of pain just by shifting how the world, really occurs for me.
Which is such an important perspective, that, when you do find your joy and your desires and the things that fuel you, then it helps shift your perspective on other points of your life as well. And it's not that it's like you said, it's a part of you, it's who you are, but at the same time, you've actually found something that brings you joy, and that tap into that creativity again.
Exactly. And, you had mentioned something before that I think fits right here, which is the way to create that connection with people who might be hesitant to do so is to show up with yours already in place. When we give someone the capacity to see and be with our own vulnerability and curiosity, our own, underbelly, our own delicate and sensitive underbellies, when we share that with people in an authentic way, it opens up the playground for them to actually explore their core self right then, as a capacity to interrelate with our human frequency, with each other, and create that beautiful human connection, the possible love that creates instant, spontaneous healing right at that moment.
Which is truly where the magic happens, right? And it's so beautiful to see when clients get that realization that, oh, actually I can change that if I want to, and I can be honest, and I can have those deep conversations. So as we finish our time together, Dr. Fred, what I ask my guests is that, if they could heal or change something in the world for the better, what would it be?
If I could, I think what it would be the understood notion that there's something wrong with people. This idea, like if we could get that there's nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with him, nothing wrong with them, nothing. Like they're all, everyone, including those fools and idiots that disagree with you, are doing the same thing as you. They're finding their way through this incredibly complex, challenge to be an effective human being.
Yeah.
Whatever they're doing, even the ones who are doing like the stupidest crap ever, all they're really trying to do is find a way to make their life worthwhile, just like we all are. Can we get that inherently there's nothing wrong with us? But with that said, when we start taking chemicals that create a chemical imbalance, which is what the general industry calls for. The general industry is, you come to a psychiatrist, they listen to you for a few minutes, they agree with you about whatever the diagnosis was that you thought you had in the first place. And then they give you a medication that actually creates that diagnosis. Like, I would ask people to look very, very clearly and soundly at this idea of entering the complex as a way of getting better and realizing there is no fixing necessary. There's no actual need for a diagnosis or therapy or medications for you. It's just a matter of connecting with other people, re-looking at, detoxifying yourself. The Moss method, which you talked about before, has many different components: gratitude, meditation, nutrition, qigong and tai chi. We start looking at creativity, spirituality, looking at service and pets and pampering and hydration. There are 20 things on this list that if I knew somebody who was doing all 20 things on the list, which I don't, if I did, I would know that their life was put together. Because if you did all of these things, they're very grounding and they open up our view and open up our framework so that we can see the world from a place of honest to goodness peace without having to divisively learn how to separate ourselves from each other. There's such serious damage going on right now in this world with the divisive nature of, people choosing to disregard or to have disdain or hatred for each other for simple things that they believe. Yeah. Someone believes something about something that we disagree with, and all of a sudden they're not a good person and we don't care what they believe about anything else. Such a high cost decision to make that. And if we don't recover from that, it doesn't matter. It's curtains. And we don't recover from that, then.
Exactly. Like, and it's like, for some reason this is coming up. So I saw this thing and it said, hey, if someone took $10 out of your bank account, would you discount the rest of the money in there? They're like, no, of course not. And they're like, okay, well, if something happens in your day, would you discount the rest of your day just because of that one thing that happened in the morning, right? It's like with people, if they say one wrong thing that irks you, it's not even wrong, right? But one thing that might irk you or prickle you, would you just discount the whole person because it was one thing, even though you have like all this other great connection and other things? So I guess that's something really to keep in mind. And Dr. Fred, how would people find you?
So, I have, we didn't talk much about the financial literacy part, and we'll get to that maybe in a future conversation. But one of the projects I'm really taking on is helping people with a free education for financial literacy. Primarily, the company I'm working with works in the U.S. and Canada. So your listeners in those two countries would be most interested. Maybe that's one reason we didn't go there. But if you really want to, meet me, or you really want to talk to me, or learn from me, or learn with me, or perhaps even educate me, the best place to do that would be at my websites. I have two of them: drfred360.com, drfred360.com. And that's a concise version of my broader website, which is welcometohumanity.net. And then I have this very exciting community in Mighty Networks that's growing today. And I have a Mighty Networks community that's called none other than Welcome to Humanity. So if you look up Mighty Networks and Welcome to Humanity, you'll find me there. And that community is growing fast. And we're really there to really look at all these ways of handling humanity from a community perspective, helping each other learn what kind of steps can be effective, pursuing a proper purpose, pursuing a mission, pursuing what most of us are here to do, which is to leave the place better than when we arrived.
Agreed. All right, beautiful. And I'll make sure I include all those links in the show notes for anyone listening and didn't have a chance to write that down. But thank you so much for your time, Dr. Fred. And I feel the conversation went exactly where it had to go for today.
Perfect. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for having me. And, thank you for making all the flexible efforts to come in at such a weird time down under. And it's super, super cool to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show note. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.